Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gents. This is Defub21, and I have just watched the 8th and final episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian more than once, so I can give you this review. This is by far the weakest ending of a season of The Mandalorian we've had to date. I mean, yes, there's lots of action, there's shooting, there's explosions, and you see the Praetorians being fought by Mando and so on, and you know it is effectively a direct continuation of the last episode. In fact, to be perfectly blunt, it feels like the last episode and this episode, which is actually quite short, it's barely 30 minutes long, which I think bears credence to my suspicions that, or not 30 minutes, yeah, it's 38 minutes and 56 seconds. It's one of the shorter episodes of the season. It's less than 40 minutes long, and I have the sneaking suspicion that episode 7 and episodes 8 were originally written as a single episode and then were chopped into two separate ones, specifically to kind of lengthen the season run. Whether having them as one big episode would actually have improved the quality or of the experience, I genuinely don't know. The problem that this season has, again, the core structural problems it has are the same core structural problems that season 1 and season 2 do. The era of episodic storytelling, which is a necessity because of broadcast and cable television, you didn't know, you couldn't reliably guarantee that the audience, or that certainly a very significant chunk of the audience, would actually get to see every single episode. If life happens, maybe you have to go see the family, have dinner, maybe you're sick, maybe just go to bed early because you're exhausted, and you miss an episode of a show, and if it's not on again ever, or if the reruns are at an inconvenient time or place, then you've missed out on a key potential piece of story for a season of a show you're watching. But in the era of streaming, where every episode is always available forever, that's not an issue. And so, this is the true golden age, or at least should be, enabled by streaming television, of serialized television and serialized storytelling. But The Mandalorian from day one has always been somewhat episodic. You'd have self-contained episodes that have relatively little impact on the main story. You'd have story elements that in a properly serialized show, like the current season of Star Trek Picard, would be written into several episodes, or instead dealt with and wrapped up in a single episode. And so it's simply incapable of being as well written as you would expect for the show with the kind of money that's being spent on it. And these issues have been there since the beginning, but the first season and the second season were frankly more cohesive in terms of their storytelling. The overall quality of the individual episodes was better, and particularly critically, in both cases, both seasons had reveals within them. Both season 1 and season 2 had elements within them that had such huge wow factor at the time that they really helped plus the show overall. In season 1, it was the revelation of Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, and then seeing Moff Gideon cut his way out of his down TIE fighter with the Darksaber, which looked extremely cool. And then finally, in season 2, you had that last episode, which included who? Yes, Anakin Skywalker in deepfake form. And now, I was not particularly fond of that. I don't like member berries or playing to the hardcore audience as much as a lot of people do. My view on Star Wars content and Star Trek content and content that has an established fan base is that the fan service is more of that content, more Star Wars shows or movies, more Star Trek shows or movies that are well made, that are good, that are well written. That's the fan service as far as I'm concerned. And everything else, if it disrupts the story or takes you out of, or hurts suspension of disbelief, those are all bad things. This season, as I said, it's much more badly put together. It's much more badly written than season 1 and 2, and it lacks that major kind of quote-unquote member berries that can push people's buttons. Although it should be noted that the two, the season 1 is by far the strongest of the show, in my opinion, because it has two things that are not member berries in it. It has Moff Gideon, who is a unique and I think very cool character, and with the Darksaber, which is a bit of a member berry. But crucially, vitally, it has Baby Yoda. Now you could say that Baby Yoda is kind of member berries, but Grogu is a completely separate character, and maybe that was a warning in season 2 that the way the directions were going, that they relied on major member berries to conclude the season. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but again, I didn't particularly like. I know a lot of people did. I've watched a lot of reaction videos to that last couple of minutes of the final episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian. A lot of people liked Luke Skywalker turning up to save the day, but I thought it was a bit of an eye-rolling, again, unnecessary fan service / member berry type event. But maybe that was, a warning sign that they were beginning to have to rely more on kind of crutches of doing things like that, again, member berries, because I don't know, they just didn't have any ideas, or they were having difficulty putting together a cohesive show. But as it stands, this is, it's not. Well, the real problem for both Disney and for Star Wars is that this is not the worst piece of new Disney IP. Again, Obi-Wan Kenobi was terribly put together. Boba Fett was not actually better than this, because the couple episodes that had Mando in them were better, in my opinion, than anything we've seen this season on the actual Mandalorian show itself. And so I don't know where they go from here. I've saw the Ahsoka trailer. Maybe it's an improvement. It's quite possible that there's a lot of kind of, there's been persistent reports on the interwebs of infighting at Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy still hasn't been gotten rid of. Her acolytes haven't been gotten rid of. I know there were issues with Pedro Pascal that seriously disrupted the production of season 3, resulting in potentially quite significant rewrites. There apparently Grogu was supposed to stay with Anakin, from what's been reported online, and that might have forced them to completely rewrite the show for this season and do it in a very compressed time frame that's resulted in such poor quality. But they can't. Again, it's not good enough. In the era of big budget appointment streaming television, this isn't good enough, and it's certainly not good enough to help rebuild the reputation of the IP after the disastrous sequel trilogy movies, of which I've only seen the first 2, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is very badly made, not to mention poorly written, and then of course the Book of Boba Fett, which was again still overall better than this, because the Mando episodes in that were I thought very good, and certainly better than anything we've seen this season. So from here on out, I don't know how or where things are going to go. I know there's the Acolyte is coming down the tracks, and we have season 1 of Ahsoka coming, and hopefully that'll be good. But as it currently stands, it's simply not enough. And that's my views on the episode. I might do a complete review for the season, or you could even count this as a complete review of the season. But yeah, it's it's not where it needs to be. It's the worst season of the show so far. It's badly put together / written. It may have better production values overall than, say, Star Trek Picard, but Star Trek Picard has its own issues. But the serialized storytelling in Star Trek Picard is way, way better than this. Both because of the fact that it's a lot less episodic in nature, and that the episodes are much longer, which means they have more space on the page to write things properly. Anyway, this is Defub 21. Not impressed at all. They really do need to up their game. Let's see what happens in Ahsoka. Signing off. Well, actually not signing off. Like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, please do so, and please ring the bell for notifications whenever I upload new content. This is Defub 21 signing off. Toodaloo.